vat ons.
Got it.
Okay. Hello, Werner. For everybody
Hallo,
who's...
Aline.
Hoe gaan het? Sound check. Werken.
Check hom.
Ek voel so 'n bietjie
Can I have
soos
more bubbles in the monitor, please?
ek wil net bietjie ons gaan begin met lou water. Ek gaan ons van bietjie warmer maak ook dan. Ons kan bel ook, nee. It is a Zoom call after all. Hello.
This is old school Zoom.
Dit voel lekker, dit voel mooi, retro hierdie.
Yeah.
So for everybody who's watching this, hello to all of you. This is Werner, who also goes by the name Vana. I guess it's like it feels like a very sophisticated English way of saying it. But before we go on, Summa, tell us that story. How did it become Vana? I don't know if I'm saying it right. So please tell us that.
No, I mean, I think it's like a banana, but Vana.
Vana, Vana, got it.
Yeah. But ek was, praat ons Afrikaans of praat ons Engels? Should we keep it English?
English asseblief, ja, dat almal kan verstaan.
Okay. English asseblief, Aline. Nice. So I was also a big fan of Nirvana. So when people see Vana, they're like, Vana. But I really don't mind because it was just, you know, when you're young and you want to get into the art world or the music world, you just want to be unique, you know, and you're just striving to like carve out your place. And, you know, it was part of that. It was part of that. Like my real name, I have no problem with my real name, Werner van Heerden. But, you know, it felt like I could do better. It was nothing against my name. And when I was young, my father did call me Van. So and then when he really showed affection, it was Vana, you know, like Siena.
Ek sien.
So that was like a natural progression. But I've always liked names. I always liked calling my band names or choosing the band name, or you know, that's part of the fun.
I get you. So just for everybody to know, you can read more about, I'm going to call you Werner because I was just saying before we started recording that I met you as Werner years ago. I don't know if you remember this. I remember it so clearly. Obviously, you made such an impression on me. But we were in Sidewalk Cafe.
Must be the curly hair.
It moet wees.
Yes.
Sidewalk Cafe, nee? And you returned from, I think it was England, wat jy teruggekom het from overseas. And your band's name was Green Acres. Is it right? Remember right?
Green Acre. Yes.
Green Acre, that's it. So that's where I met you. And we haven't spoken much through the years, but I've always known about you and your band, the Oh So Serious band. So that's how we know each other. It's just for everybody's interessant.
And that was an amazing venue. Talk about places that stick out in the memory of people. It's like if you knew what it was, you knew what it was. If you didn't know, you would never know, you know.
Exactly that. One of the best venues ever. Love
One of the gorgeous small places with so much heart. Hey,
that's it, eh? And that's the thing. It's always these small spaces that it doesn't feel like it's rigged out for anything. But when you're there, there's an atmosphere and a soul there. The same with Adlo and Harties. Did you ever go to Adlo?
Good word. No, I missed Adlo.
Yeah, it was the same thing. But
same thing as the Nile crocodile. The Nile crocodile, the original Nile crocodile also had that.
Yeah, lekker ou dae. So Werner, I want to jump straight in. I want you to tell us about your career, how it started, your music career, up until right before we got the news that there's a lockdown happening. If you can give us an overview of your career, everything that you've done musically over the years.
Okay, my mother was a teacher and she used to run the cadet orkes when I was growing up. And, you know, like a mother of two at that stage. And so I was always the kid at the orkes sitting on the drums and bashing the drum.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, like music was always a big thing for me, although like it wasn't really a thing in my family. It was just me and my brother.
Yeah.
And when he was about, I was about 15 and he was about 13, a little bit younger, he picked up a guitar, and I got so enthused by him playing guitar that I also wanted to play guitar, you know. So we started playing guitar, and then we started a band called, our first group, the Eve's, it was called Eve's Posture.
Yeah.
Very fancy, Eve's Posture.
Yeah.
And we played with, in those days, it was like the Nile Crocodile, and when Cedar was still sarin gas, right at the height of, right at the height of Soil 77's fame. That was, you know, that was a big thing. And then there was guitars and amps and big stuff, and I pretty early on got into acoustic music and blues music. And then we started, after Eve's Posture broke up, we started a band called Velvet and the Horse with Murray McCleary and Eugene Theron, and we played a couple of gigs, and so that was kind of the start of the folk thing for me. And when I got back, then I went to England when I was 21, and I played in the clubs of England, played the blues and the folk scene. That's a whole nother discussion, but I learned so much, and I saw all these great bands. And I used to look after a blind man, Paul. And the deal between me and him was, it was one of my jobs is I would take him to, he would buy tickets to concerts and I would go with him. So I would chaperone him. And I could do whatever I wanted. I could drink and stuff. I just had to like not leave him at the concert, you know. And we saw James Brown, and we saw a lot of great. Actually saw Bob Dylan, and we saw Booker T and the MGs. And so I saw a lot of music, and like it just solidified in my brain what I wanted to do. So when I got back to Greenacre, I think I had such a jump start on the folk scene, and I'm not even sure if the guys knew what folk. I called it folk music the whole time. They were like, "Well, what is that?" And who backed it? And like, "What is, you know?"
Yeah.
And but I was on such a level that I just knew what, you know. So I knew Greenacre was going to be cool, and so we had Greenacre with Jay and Franco and Wynand. And so that was great until it was time to move on. And what it actually was, there's a couple of things, but what it actually was that I wanted to have a big band. I wanted to have like a drummer and a bass player and a violin player, and I wanted to have like a banjo player. I never got one, but so then that was 2010. So since 2010, since then, you know, the Oh So Serious was my thing.
You know what, Nee? I didn't know this about you, but I assumed this. For you, it's very much about the vibe and the almost the culture of the thing. Like you're saying, you like giving things titles. It's almost like you create a little bit of a persona. It's an act that's happening there. It's an entertaining act that's happening. And this is interesting because that's what an artist does. You have a voice and a look and a thing, and that's what you do, and people follow you because it's authentic like that. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about your experience in the industry. How did you make this thing work? How did you make the bands work? Because often people will struggle keeping bands together, and they'd feel, oh, I have to book people, I have to pay them to put a gig together. But in your case, it seems like you guys bought into the music and bought into the brand, and that's what kept everything together. Because you guys have been together for a long time, eh? The Oh So Series has been going for a really long time, and that's awesome. How do you manage that and keep it together?
Aureen, I think it's a couple of things. I would say right at the top of it is probably a bit of fortune, you know, because I think you get born into a personality. So it's like maybe my lot was to be able to keep on seeing the good and keep on to try and pull things together, rather than, sometimes, a lot of the times, yourself, the music industry is like
Ek weet.
it's baie moeilik, jy weet. But so I have been I've really been fascinated with the whole music thing, so like I tried to work it out, and this is what I did. I decided very early on, after like the first couple of iterations of bands that I had, is that the band model doesn't really work. And the rock band model. So you have your drummer and your bassist and your keyboard player.
Yeah.
But whereas the jazz model might work very, very good in the rock world, and no one would see it coming. You just have to give it a little bit of time. So what I mean by that is that the OSA series never had, I think we had 4 or 5 people in every position in the band who all knew the songs.
Okay.
So what that meant is we started off with an album, and we recorded the album with the best guys we could find, Anthony Koopman, Igor Radijn, those guys, And then as soon as I had that material, I would say to Igor Radijn, okay, like, I can't really afford you. I know you're busy, but can you recommend someone? And then you'd recommend Rian Dietrichs. Okay. Then I'd go to Rian Dietrichs and say, like, Rian, can you make it? Then he'd say no. Then I'd go to Tina Skeppers and I'd say, Tina Skeppers, these are all drummers. I'm just trying to find a drummer. Yeah. It's like, okay, here's the music. I would speak to Anthony Koopman and say, Anthony, can you make it? No, I've got a jazz gig with Alreen. Speak to Rainier Prince. I'd go to Rainier Prince. Rainier, can you make it? No, you can't make it. Speak to Franco Jamek. Okay, so these are just bass players. So, and if very often, very, very, very often in the 10 years, in fact, it became so often that I didn't even really think about it anymore. We'd play with 2 or 3 people in the group who knew the songs and had played before. Yeah. And the bassist who had literally walked onto the stage that night. And so, see, you can do that with jazz, but you can't really do that with rock. You can get away with it. Yeah. So
exactly.
What I think people don't know is that the OSA series is a collaborative thing. It's not really a group. It's more like a club. And so that's why we've been around so long, because I'm the guy who writes the song. So it seems like all I had to do was drive through to Joburg to rehearse. So I did a lot of rehearsing my own songs with new people. And so that's why I said there's a bit of fortune there, because I could have easily been, but I was so gretig too. Like I was so always been so anxious to make it, to be part of the art scene and the music scene, and just like those are like the people that I really like. I gravitate towards them, and hopefully it's the same way coming back.
Exactly that. I hear you.
And then you have to be strong. You have to be like, it's a lot of things. Like, right, it's like a good product, and the actual music has to be good, and you have to pitch up. You have to look good. There's a time when bands didn't care what they looked like. I always tried to do that, but the guys and the girls, some of them fell for it and some of them didn't, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the fun,
Exactly. I thought about you a little bit, because I remember you also, do you still teach at Cornwall? No, you're in the Cape now. So this was long ago, Werner. Nee?
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Okay, that was quite a few years ago. But what's interesting to me is a person like you, who are also into a different world where you function properly, like teaching maths at a school, And then on the other
mm,
side, you're this absolute, like, authentic artist, this living this thing that you're passionate about. I often think that a person like you who has developed those skills in the corporate world will do well in music, because people who are one dimensional in their musical careers kind of struggle sometimes to make it work, because we never develop that side of,
mm,
being on time, contracts, people, relationships, and management, and that stuff.
mm.
So I think that's special about you. I think having those skills, we can think clearly about things and apply it in the music world, is quite a skill to have. That's quite a skill to have.
I take it as a compliment, Irene. I think
Totally, yeah.
we were sold a lie
Yeah,
early on in the 90s, coming out
yeah,
of the grunge era, where it was like, we have to be
yeah,
only you have to be only this, like Kurt Cobain won't like you if you
yeah,
also teach maths in the daytime.
totally,
Um,
totally.
so I wonder what it's like today. I mean, I see there's a lot of
Yeah,
kids taking music lessons and stuff, and
yeah,
uh, you know, um, we're a whole generation of people that didn't uh, sign up at Samro and get our royalties, and then we
exactly.
worry and wonder why. I mean, I've written 50 songs maybe that I've
Yeah,
performed over 20 years.
yeah,
And I mean, I signed up at Samro, but I never went to the owner of the bar. And like,
yeah,
so there was lots of gaps that I didn't take either. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you just, you grow up into it. This is part of a bigger conversation, because we
totally.
never really, as artists in South Africa, like there was no guidance, like none.
Mm,
And I'm not making excuses, because it's been amazing,
mm,
and it will still be amazing.
mm.
But part of me is, you know, it's like we did it despite there even be a crowd sometimes. I
Yep.
mean, how nuts is that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
actually pay money into your own gig.
that's it. Mm,
You just lose money that night. You just lose money,
exactly.
but it just shows you how bright the fire burns.
That's it. And that's
Mm,
professionalism also. To know that you're serious about it and you're doing it for the right reasons. But Badr, what you just said is what everybody has said so far. Everybody has said exactly that. Nobody can do this full time. It's not viable to do it. Very few people do it full time. I'm speaking about only performing. I'm not talking about teaching on the
yes,
side and doing other stuff. And we were
yes.
definitely not prepared or governed. The whole thing was not governed enough to kind of help us to understand the business side of things. But absolutely, somebody like you who
Yeah.
has so many songs, you get your royalties. But we don't think of things like that. Contracts and going and filling out the little form,
Mm.
making sure the venue has a license for the music, etc., etc. It's kind of, we don't think about it. Verstaan?
No,
It's just not so. It's weird.
there's no guidance, and there's no leadership.
No.
Actually we, like boys and girls our age, we actually have to turn back now
Yeah.
and teach the young ones, like, hey, don't make the same mistakes I made.
Exactly.
Because there's
Exactly.
still writers. That girl who writes her own songs and dreams of being Taylor Swift, she's going to spend 10 years gigging and writing those songs.
Mm,
And then you wanted to get to a stage where she can, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, so we have a
absolutely.
responsibility now to like actually go back and say,
Yeah.
like, okay,
No.
if you're 19 and 20, write me call me or something.
Yeah.
I will be
Exactly.
able to, without like booze and drugs, we can sit down and have a coffee and like, let's make sure that you have actually got shit in place. Like,
That's it.
and I'm not even talking about the drugs and the abuse and all that. That's if you stick to the line, you should still.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think that's important. I think somebody like you has the credibility to take a young person and give them advice and be a mentor to them. You know, it's not just about the music, and the music must be everybody has their musical identity and their own reasons for doing it, but it's about a lot of other things, a lot of other things.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I
I agree
think
with you, Irene.
we should, yeah, take it into our own hands and try and help each other, or younger people.
Mm.
So I want to ask you about the pandemic. Um, Obviously, we weren't able to gig anymore, so we were in lockdown. What was
Mm.
your initial reaction to that news that we're locked down? We're not allowed to gig at all for a person who's actively gigging. Um, and also, what did you try to do in the beginning, especially to navigate this new way of life?
Yeah.
How, yeah, yeah.
Um, well, I mean, I saw, I, I actually got a bit of burnout from relentlessly gigging and touring and never saying no to, yeah, like we gigged so much. My real life wasn't. I mean, I wasn't falling apart, but my relationship and being away from home, and
Yeah.
so I was ready to like um, actually needed the pandemic. Do you know what I mean? Like
Uh,
not because I didn't want to play. I needed a rest. And
uh,
when the pandemic hit, I saw the people go online and do live shows and stuff. And I thought it was great. And
mm,
but I think the attention span has changed.
uh,
I don't know if it's the same for you. Like
uh,
uh, when I'm online, I flick through my Instagram.
mm,
It's still for 40 minutes, like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
but like that's time I'll never get away back again. And if
Mm,
I'm on Facebook, I will. Um,
yeah. Yep.
so I think the attention span got me a little bit, and I saw people have like hour shows online,
Yeah.
and I just I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I also couldn't play for an hour online.
Mm,
And so there's this guy from the Raconteurs, Brendan Benson,
yeah.
and he's also a singer songwriter.
Yeah.
And he does. I follow him, and he does one song a day,
Mm,
and he chats a little bit, and then
mm,
he's in his house there, and then he plays one of his. He's like a famous guy.
okay.
So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do that.
Mm,
I'm gonna I'm gonna do a month. Well, I didn't decide. I stopped after a month, but I
yeah.
decided to do a song on a
Mm,
particular topic because folk music is great for that. It's got like topical songs. I mean,
that's
jazz is
true.
the same. It's like love songs and breakup
Yeah.
songs and like pining for love songs and
Yeah.
the loss of love songs and many murder ballads and so. So
Mm,
I like planned it out a little bit, and I did a bit of research,
yeah.
and then I would play Frankie and Johnny, which is like a great murder ballad, and
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about murder ballads, what I knew, and like one or two things I'd researched to make it seem like I knew more than I did,
Mm,
um, and then I would play the song. So it took me
mm,
like 15 minutes, and I
yeah.
would play. And I would play not an original, a famous murder ballad in the intro,
Okay.
but just
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
sat down, then I'd talk about it, and then I'd play my version of Frankie and Johnny.
I remember. I remember you did this
Yeah.
very clearly. There was a window with a beautiful curtain. The wind was.
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember it
Yes.
very clearly. That was by.
Okay, that's cool that you remember it.
Okay. Yeah.
And then my wife, it got to be quite fun because then my wife would say she'd put an Instagram filter on me,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't know what the filter was until after the video.
Okay. Okay.
So if you go look on my Instagram, on the
Yeah.
Osa Series' Instagram, all the
Yeah.
videos are there,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it's so cool because it was like I thought about it a little bit. It wasn't too long. It was I researched it, so everything I say there kind of like makes sense,
Mm,
and plus all the cool festival stories and stuff,
yeah.
and then I was doing it dressed up as a geisha doll or whatever because I couldn't see the filter that she'd put on me.
Okay. Oh, lekker. Fun and games.
And then after 30 days, I quit it, and then something else happened which took me in another direction. But that was for the music. So
Yeah.
I would like to do that again. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Because
It was like
I remember very clearly that the first painting that you made and uploaded to Facebook, it looked to me like it exploded because everybody thought, oh my word, look at this guy's artwork. Nobody knew, well, nobody knew that you painted like that. I am absolutely blown away by that. It's so
thank you.
beautiful. It's incredibly
Thank
beautiful. Yeah, you have just an online art exhibition of it. You must sell it. People will buy the crap out of it. It's absolutely stunning. So
Thank you
people,
very much.
yeah, people are watching this. Just go to Werner's Facebook profile and check out this thing that he spoke about just now and the paintings. It's absolutely amazing. So you're well done to that. Like there's a new following there, right there for your artwork, and it's fantastic.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's yeah, it was a surprise even to me.
How beautiful is that though, eh? Like sometimes a crappy
Yeah.
situation brings out really beautiful things at the end of the day.
I
So
mean, me and my brother were talking about this. The much the same as like you know, I mean, people have been talking about the 1920s again and wada, but
yeah,
an intense moment of lockdown and like pandemic, it does like we're already seeing signs of like massive creativity coming out of everywhere,
yeah,
coming out of the cracks.
yeah,
And this is a good time for music and for art and for people writing books. I mean, I think the literature coming out of this time,
yeah. This is
amazing
fresh.
how shit can go bad, but then out of it blooms art, you know?
Exactly. That is so
Yeah.
true. Yeah. So it's like a broken pot and then something starts growing there. It's like, dit is regtig so,
Yeah.
né?
Yeah. That Japanese broken pot, the gold pot, that's the
Ja,
art. Yeah.
precies.
Yeah.
Precies. Beautiful in its brokenness. Um, through all the conversations that I've had so far, this is something that I also want to ask you about. You know, obviously musicians suffered because we couldn't give expression to our art and what we do. But can you hear me? Is there still sound?
Yeah, I just need more bubbles in the monitor. More bubbles, please. Yeah, sorry.
Gaan jy nou uitsorteer. I also thought of the following that you have for your music. We forget that we have a following, and those people are also kind of losing out. And if you, for instance, you depend on your club, you called it a club, you depend on that club to be able to give expression to what you do, and now it's just you. So it's almost like the identity of the club changed because now it's you. You are the core member there. But what does it look like now? What does it sound like now? So it's all kind of changed. And I think your fans view you in a different light. Also say, okay, well, this is just Werner on his own. I don't know. What do you think of that thought, that idea, that assessment?
I mean, I think it's great. Like if you distill it down to its core,
Yeah.
then what really matters is the words coming out of your mouth and the notes coming out of your guitar, your piano.
Yeah.
It's not littered or contrived by any kind of other beautiful, like beautifully contrived harmony bouncing on top of it.
Yeah.
It's comes straight down to the simplest things. And so sometimes I've heard other people just on their guitar or just on the piano singing, and it just like you know, like take like a Nina Simone who didn't you know, she could soften a whole stadium. It was just her and a piano, you know. So it's like that idea of basicness.
Yeah.
I think is sometimes the strongest thing in music, you know. And the like embellishment on it is the fun part for the artist and everyone around. And it's like, yes, jazz club, but also the song should be able to stand alone. I think someone once said, like, if you can't play it on acoustic guitar, it won't work.
Yeah.
There's truth in that. I don't think it's the whole truth, but but in the pandemic, I was busy too. Like I think I know that I've written the next album for the band.
Wow.
And we already recorded it with Andries Visser on drums and
Lekker.
Anthony on bass.
Lekker.
So yes, I can't do anything about it now, but
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, the bread is rising while we wait for, you know, a more clear vision of how we're going to walk into a packed club and do our thing. Because I mean, that's like, I have anxiety just walking into the spa. No, I mean, I don't suffer from anxiety, so I don't want to trivialize the word. I'm just like, I have felt like, oh God, these people are the enemy here, you know, like who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated. Like, we did play 1 or 2 gigs in, you know, in small places here where it was absolutely packed because people were just trying to live again.
Exactly.
But in retrospect, we could have a lot of people just by, you know. Yeah. So like, it's difficult, right? It's like, absolutely. What do you do now?
I know. Yeah. It's like we're in limbo. It's like this bipolar thing. Whoops. Okay, now what's gonna do? We're gonna do it, and then no. It's like between joy and fear all the time. It's I wanna. Like I don't know enough about you and your career, but I want to ask you a little bit more about, well, your thoughts of the industry, especially during the pandemic. Did you feel like dat ek mooi dink ook hierdie sal vra. Do you feel like there are shortcomings in the industry in terms of, like you already said, leadership and everything, but like the government who was handing out grants and things like that? Did you consider yourself to be eligible for that? I know they had a criteria. I myself didn't look at it. You know, I just like we spoke earlier, like I don't fill out I forget about the forms or whatever. But how much do you know about that part, the admin part of the industry and stuff like that? Did you even look at it?
No, I have people around me who are much better at than me.
Okay.
So I absolutely am blind to the fact that I could have been better even for myself. Okay. But I'm in a weird place in my life because the music struggle is real. And I feel that I had just enough energy to survive by writing the songs, leading the band, organizing the tours, paying for the tours, like packing in, packing out.
Yep.
I was fully invested in that. And I've always also worked a 9 to 5. Yep. So I'm full. So so for me, I used the money that I made from my job to pay for all the things I needed to do in my music.
Yeah.
And so looking back now, I could have been a little bit more savvy, but I don't think my ek was net so moeg om net my kop bo water te hou, so when I know there's like relief funds for touring Africa and stuff, but it just never crossed my path because I was already fighting a losing battle type of thing, I thought anyway, because I started playing folk music in a rock scene. Even people were like, what are you doing? So this is one big fat excuse, and it should sound like that. I'm just saying, I have this other thing also where people are full-time musicians and they don't, they kind of, I feel like they deserve more, And I always felt like I was like a bit of an imposter that's why I tried so hard to, you know,
I
I don't know.
understand.
I've always just been very like light-footed around, calling myself this or calling myself this or labeling myself, and just try to have fun with the actual idea of creating. And being so busy with that so yeah, to answer your question, the government probably didn't do anything for us as artists. I mean, we're the last people to consider, to be considered, but it's the same reason why billion-dollar companies get tax breaks and the rest of us have to cough up.
Yep.
It's a broken system. I think art is supposed to lighten that load, and
yep.
So it's so beautiful to be involved in something that is born out of just pure imagination.
Yeah, as simple as that.
Like you wanna be happier? Go write yourself a poem and say it out loud in the mirror.
That's it.
Like it's gonna make you feel better. Like
that's true.
That type of lightness.
Yeah.
That's what people see at festivals. They're like, oh, I want to be in a band too.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Yeah. It's true. These guys are just making stuff up. That guitar player, he just made it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like exactly. a bass solo, go ahead, buddy. He's never played that bass solo in his life.
Yeah.
He's just going down the scales and he's twirling the bass, and that type of fun, that is what it's about,
Yeah.
But I'm circling around your question, but I think they could have done a lot more. They could do a lot more for teachers. They could do a lot more for nurses.
Yeah.
And it's corrupt and it's ugly. But in an ugly, corrupt world, you've got to go find the little gold in the plate there,
Exactly. Exactly that. But that's such a conundrum what you just mentioned, to ask yourself, am I a full-time musician? Am I professional? Am I an imposter here? Because you can directly link that to the government's priority. There was a criteria for people to qualify to get these grants. But it's such an unrealistic way of treating the arts, because Werner, at the end of the day, the people who listen to your music is the people who decide whether you are a professional or not. Because if you have a following, if you're making a life, I mean, who cares? Who cares if you're good? Who cares who you are? Verstaan jy?
I know.
I struggle to get starstruck because that's how I think about it. At the end of the day, it's not so much about us. It's actually more about the public. And we should, I don't know, remind ourselves of that. So even there's plenty people who do music full-time, teaching and performing and what in different variants of that, who feel, oh shit, I'm an imposter. I should be Kurt Darren. Kurt Darren is a professional. But in every
faulty.
In every we spoke about this a few weeks ago. I think Charles and I spoke about it. And I asked him, if we had to put this business into a corporate mold and say, you have a job title, you have a job description, you have a salary, you know exactly who you are. You're a singer, but this guy is a session player, and this guy is an artist, and that way.
Yes.
We can't really do it like that. It doesn't make sense. We should do it like that to a degree, but again, here comes the government with the criteria. Jy's in, jy's uit. Ek weet nie hoe dit werk nie. Ek weet glad nie hoe dit werk nie. Yeah, it's like an identity crisis, I think. But anyway.
It definitely is. Is the answer like a union? It's like, when are we going to have like a governing body that actually looks after us?
Yeah.
Or anything comparable to that? It's like the goddamn Wild West.
Precies.
And people just chalk it up to, it's Africa. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, but it comes down to, I think it comes down to someone who is a leader, like, like Charlene from Steak and Ale.
Yes.
she could have, if she didn't go into what she's into, and she maybe had a budget,
Yeah.
she could have done that. She could have looked after all of us. I'm pretty sure.
Totally. She's got the heart and the passion, and she understands us. The government does, they don't understand artists. Ons werk nie dieselfde as ander mense nie. Yes, ek het nou net iets gesê. My kop is nou so ongelooflik hyper op hierdie oomblik nou.
Ek is op 1%. So as ons uitkat, it's been nice to bath you.
Okay. I feel cleansed. Listen, okay, but on that note then, it was so lovely chatting to you. I just want to ask you a last question. I'll have to cut it short because I don't want us to break off. Just one last question then. Why did you decide to join this project? What do you think is the value that it brings to the industry?
Well, it's weird, like you have a kingship with the people that you see in the industry and the people like yourself, I know like we could have easily been house friends, but we've just never been in the same house together,
Yeah, precies. Yeah.
And so I love creative ways of asking a question. And I think the OSA series was that, and STORTKOP is also that, and it's like it's so clever, When I first saw it, I was like, but how? But what? How? and then when I understood what you were doing, I just thought it was great, and that type of it's like clinical satire,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's great, and that's creative, and that's the that is attractive. So to keep it, questions push you forward. That questions never hold you back.
That's it.
So I admire what you do, and I'm honored to be part of it, and
yes. Sny ons af. Ach nee. Okay, well, so that is that. I will have to say goodbye. On Werner's behalf, I really enjoyed chatting to him. He will watch this video, obviously. So Werner, thank you for chatting. I think what we discussed today will bring so much value to the project. Sharing your journey as an artist who created a club and who gigged so much and could hold up a day job and the music, which is the ideal, I think, is to have the money to do that, because we need money to be able to have a career. So anyways, thank you so much to you for joining this project, and thank you for listening. Cheers, everybody.